So, hello, we're back. Part 2, we're going to do a tour of Puffin down below. Thank you for all the comments on Facebook. That's really good. I did ask if you liked it, we'll do some more, and if you didn't, we would stop. And we've had quite a few nice positive comments, so we thought we'd do part 2 and give you a bit of a look around all the various bits and pieces we've done to start to get Puffin ready for the Golden Globe race. So, let's go. Okay, so on the domestic front, in the Galley, we've done quite a few little upgrades to make life a bit easier on board Puffin. First thing to mention is my lovely alcohol stove here. So I mentioned before, we've gone away from gas on Puffin, no gas aboard. So this is, some people call them metho stoves, because you can put methylated spirits in them, denatured alcohol and so on. So just 2 rings, 2 burners, no grill, no oven, very, very simple. I'm waiting for a crash bar to go here to make it a little bit safer. Those of you that might spot, that's missing at the moment. So that was the new stove, and we've had these gimbals made. As you can see, it's all a bit loose at the moment, but we've got the gimbals made to hopefully keep everything in place. Right, also in the Galley and around the boat, you'll start to notice these really big fids or handholds that we've fitted everywhere. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but they're here. And if I just cut across, excuse my back, to the other side of the Galley, you'll see that these are really large, and if I put a saucepan on here, for example, you can see that that gives me some hope of keeping things together when at sea. Really nicely done. That was Gav, thank you very much, beautiful bit of order work by Gav. New work surface, stainless steel, again just something tough and simple, easy for me to keep clean, and you know, really quite rugged. We've also, what else have we done? So we've refitted all the plumbing on board Puffin, and with the help of whale pumps, we've got new taps and pumps and bilge pumps, which we'll look at later. So over here on Puffin, what we've got, this is fresh water, which is hand pumped from here, and this fella here is salt water. And we're in the marina at the moment, so I wouldn't normally use this, but I've got a foot pump here, and in reality, when we're at sea, that's what I'm going to do most of my cleaning with. I'm going to be washing up in salt water, as you can imagine, because fresh is pretty precious. We put ourselves a new big sink in place, again, just size, so I can put pans and stuff straight in the sink. Just again, trying to keep everything as secure as we can, and also pretty simple while we're at sea. As we go through the boat, we'll talk about the electrical refit. We've actually got some nice new lights now on Puffin, which is good. Thanks to the guys at Hella, who helped me out there with their new lights, so it's LEDs throughout the boat now. Okay, moving on to the fresh water system. So one of the things we've done on Puffin is take the water fillers, which are normally on the deck level. There's 2 fillers on Puffin, and we've cut them off, blanked those fillers off, and we brought them down below. And the idea behind this is really just to protect your fresh water supply from salt water. Now, generally when we're cruising, we fill our boats up on at the deck level through the deck filler, and we tighten it up, and generally not an issue. Obviously with a voyage like the Golden Globe, there's a danger of getting salt water through those deck fillers and then into your main tanks. And fresh water is obviously critical, but I have no way of resupplying apart from what we catch, which is, you know, rainwater obviously. So we brought those fillers down below. Now, I don't know if you can see this, hopefully you can. So in what used to be just a galley cupboard, has now been remodelled to do 2 jobs for us. These 2 here are the fillers for my 2 water tanks that you can see. So when I fill water from now on, I have to bring a hose pipe down here, which is fine, it's no big deal, but obviously that's much more protected than being on the deck. What you'll also see below here, hopefully you can see it, the red one is my diesel filler. Exactly the same issue, salt water in your diesel fuel is not a great idea. So another way of protecting that is to bring them down below. And there's, you know, different ideas about where to put them. We decided this was a pretty good idea to have it in here. If I can lift this out. And what we've done is formed a series of shelves in here, and the pipework all goes down. The water tanks are below here, and the diesel tank is forward below the main cabin sole. You probably can't see it in that shot, but below here I have a couple of valves, and I've got tank 1 and tank 2. Now, why have we got 2 tanks? Well, again, it's a way of dividing up my water supply. So if something gets polluted, it should only ever be 1 tank. Leaves me a 2nd tank. It also is a way of me understanding how I'm rationing my water, because, you know, we're going to be really busy, going to be very tired, days and days go by. and I run out of water in one tank, that's fine. At least I know I'm halfway through my supply at that point. I reach down here, I change a valve over, and I start pumping from my second water tank. So there you go. They're the new fillers. Okay, so we've lifted up the floorboards here in the galley area to get down towards where the new stainless steel water tanks are fitted. But you'll see I've got this amazing space now. Now, we did have a stainless steel tank here. Isfan before me had actually upgraded his capacity by putting a second tank in the boat, which turned out to be really lucky for him, because the primary tank, the original water tank that's moulded into the keel, was polluted, and he never was able to get it clean, and therefore he didn't have any clean water in his main tank. But luckily for him, he had a secondary tank which sat in this space. Now we've taken that out for the moment, and then below we've taken out the old GRP water tank and put brand new stainless steel tanks in, which I'll show you in a moment. Some of you may have seen photographs of me down a hole. Well, this is the hole. It really goes right down into the keel of the boat below here. But what it's left me with at the moment, and this needs tidying up, but it's this amazing space. It's really fantastic storage space. So I've created a lot more space in the boat, and we will probably still put water in here, but put it in flexible containers. And this is these will be the containers that I'll be filling from rainwater when I get the chance. It just gives me more flexibility, because storage is always going to be at a premium on an event like this. Being at sea for 8, maybe 9 months is clearly a long time. So storage inside the boat is always going to be at a premium. So we've created this now, and I'll lift this up and we can have a look down below. Okay, so what we've got here is two, looks like a jumble of pipes and cables and bits of packing, but what we've actually got in here is two wonderful stainless steel tanks which were made for us by J Wolf, which is a pretty cool name. Now J Wolf can make a custom sized and shaped tank, stainless steel tank for any space, but they're really good at doing them for boats, which have obviously got very awkward spaces to fill. And they kindly helped me with this, with the project, and stepped forward, and they actually sponsored these two tanks. So we have T1, which is forward, and tank 2, which is rear, although they look like the one tank, it's actually split. And they're basically a wedge shape. They form a wedge. This was a space down here, if you guys can see that, there's a rough edge here. That was the lid of the old GRP tank. So we had to cut that out, cut out the baffles, get into the space. My son Owen, actually, who's just slightly slimmer than I am, spent a fair bit of time down there preparing the surface. We built a new floor for the tanks to sit on, so that the tanks would be, or the floor would be, tilted towards the bow. And that's because when you open up a space like this, immediately you've created a new low point in the boat. So we ended up with a new bilge area. And what we wanted to make sure is any water that's down here, which is going to come in, which will happen, is going to, with gravity, come to a low point where we can have a bilge pump. And that, if you can just about see it, is just this area back here. And down there now, that's formed my low point in the boat. That's my new low bilge. And in there I've got a brand new whale bilge pump, both a manual one and an automatic one, going down to that low point. What else to say? New plumbing everywhere. We just replaced all the pipes, everything needed replacing really. And you can see things like cables, because we've got some gauges to fit for the tank, so we know what we've got going on in terms of volume of water left over. You'll see these timber pieces. These are obviously to hold the tanks in place, but also around the tanks, really just to pad out and fill the volume, is this closed cell foam that we've used, which doesn't look particularly pretty, but it's great because we can mould it and cut it to any size that we need to fill that void, and it won't ever absorb water. And obviously it holds the tank snugly in place. Okay, so yeah, great, fantastic workmanship from J Wolf. These tanks were a thing of beauty when they turned up, and these guys designed these really clever inspection hatches that you can see here, that you can undo to get into the tank with all the fittings on the top. So okay, bit plumbing, bit nerdy on the plumbing side maybe, but it was a really great project, and that means that I've got 100%. I am now 100% sure my water is going to be good and it's going to be clean. We never felt we could ever really 100% be sure that the old tank would have come up clean and not you know, not polluted the water again in the future. Okay, that's that. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about bilge pumps now, so don't get too excited. So we've reworked all the bilge pump systems on Puffin, and again, we were very lucky because Whale Pumps sponsored us for all of our new bilge pumps. I mentioned below when we made the space for the new water tanks, we needed to make a new area, a new bilge area, and it was quite deep in the boat and it's quite a narrow space. So what we've got down there, we've got a manual pickup head for a manual bilge pump, and we've got an auto pickup head as well with just a sensor, but the pump itself is actually a high and dry pump. So that's not down in the bilge, which is what we've got used to on boats. Generally the bilge pumps are sitting down in the water, but these new high and dry systems allow you to put the pump somewhere else that's more convenient. I'll just show you what that is now, just bear with me. So down here on the port side, you'll see a traditional Mark V Whale bilge pump. That's a manual pump there and there, and then the new pipe work. But if I can show you down here, you'll see a lovely new Whale blue bilge pump. So that is high and dry, it's out of the water, and the sensor for it is actually down in that deep bilge. We've then got a secondary bilge area. So in the floor, below the floorboards here, this is the diesel tank, and then down there you can see that used to be the original bilge. That's now my high water bilge, and in there I have a really big chunky bilge pump, again from Whale, which is a much more, if you like, a higher volume pump. So the idea being that normal water that comes in the boat all the time goes down to the small bilge at the bottom. That's picked up using the fella in here, and which is quite a low volume pump. And if we have a lot of water come into the boat, that bilge is going to fill. It's going to come up to this level, then this big high volume, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the volume is, high volume pump anyway, will trigger. Again, it's got a solid state sensor, and that will start to pump. That will also trigger an alarm which will be on my control panel, so I'll know if I've got a high water event. Now also, while we're talking about bilge pumps, I mentioned there's a manual pump here. So this manual pump pumps the again the lowest, but the lower bilge. So that's one manual bilge pump. Handles here, usual style, and then over here we've got a second bilge pump. Now previously this design was a design that Isfan put in place, but both of these bilge pumps used to go to the same point. And what I've done is I've divided that up. So this particular one is actually going to be an emergency pump. And I don't know if you can see it here, there's a hole, a fitting here. So one side of that bilge pump will be a flexible hose, which will live underneath the bunk, normally down there. It's not a very exciting shot. And I'll be able to take that flexible hose anywhere on the boat and then pump using that pump. So again, you know, manual number one, emergency manual number two, bilge pump down in a deep bilge, and then a high volume bilge pump up here, as you can see. And what I'll do is I'll take you forward on Puffin now and actually show you what we've done with the forward area, where there's yet another bilge pump. Okay, so just in case we haven't had enough bilge pump fun, one more to talk about, which is in the forward part of Puffin. Puffin has a small bilge below the heads area, which is essentially below the corridor, which is down there that you can see, and so that's another area of the boat that we have to deal with. And again, with this bilge, we've decided to do the same thing as we did with the forward one, in that we've got a pickup head and a sensor in the bilge itself, and then a high and dry pump, which is actually in one of my lockers here in the fore cabin, which I'll show you now. So if I whiz you down here, you'll see a big jumble of pipes, very exciting, and then a yellow pump unit, which is our third automatic bilge pump from Whale, and that sits high and dry up here out of the way. It picks up a signal from the sensor in the bilge, turns on, sucks the water out, and then squirts it out the back of the boat for us. So that's all great, and that's our third unit. Now here, worth pointing out while we're on this subject, is another manual pumping option. And this was a system that Isfan put in place. So the heads on Puffin are operated through a pump, and it's essentially just another bilge pump. And with that, we have, well, with this setup, we have the option to divert that heads to start to use this hose instead. So instead of clearing the toilet bowl out, what it will do is use that pumping power to suck against this hose here, which gives me another flexi hose option. So I can take this anywhere I want in the boat where I've got a problem and stick it wherever I need to, and then actually pump out that area using the heads. So what that means is finally, with one manual pump in the cockpit, 2 in the saloon, that's 3, and one here, that's a 4th manual option for pumping water out. And as you've seen, we've got 3 automatic bilge pumps too. So a lot of bilge pumping options going on there, and maybe it might seem a little bit extreme, but the you know, what I'm trying to do here is create a really resilient system. And the issue is, if we do get a big load of water in, we get knocked down, something happens, we've got a big ingress of water, normally the first thing that happens with bilge pumps is they get blocked, because there's rice and there's noodles and there's paper and cardboard and everything in that mess of water. It gets sucked up, it blocks the pump really quickly, which invariably we then go down the route of a scared man with a bucket, which is a great form of getting water out of a boat. So what I've tried to do here is have multiple backups. So hopefully the automatic pumps will all run when they're needed, but if we do get blockages, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different options to try and get the water out of the boat. So it's not so difficult to add a second to a system once you start plumbing it in. And as we were redoing this, and again with the support of Whale, it was an opportunity just to make a really solid system. So there you go. That's more than you ever thought you ever wanted to know about bilge pumping on Puffin.
Yep.
Okay, well, it turns out that was all taking far too long. So what I think we'll do is we'll break this into 3 parts. And in part 3, I'll come back and give you a much more detailed walkthrough of Big Blue here, which is the Victron energy system that we've been building. And at that time, our new Solaris solar panels hopefully will be on the deck as well, so we can take a look at those. And the new switch panel, which is going to be here, which is also going to be in a waterproof enclosure. So hopefully that might be interesting. But if there's anything else that you guys want me to talk about or to take a look at together, just put a comment below. Any questions? I love the suggestions I was getting from people, so keep them coming. I do read them all. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.